Namaste to everyone. In this series, we'll be discussing events that happened on the particular day. History can teach us a lot of things, and maybe you will learn some things here, and I hope you enjoy the content. Please add your recommendations in the comments, and if you have time, subscribe and like the video. So the three topics we'll be discussing today are the start of the Anglo-Tibetan War on the 15th March 1888, and then we'll be discussing the Planning Commission, which was founded in India in the 1950s. After that, we'll end with World Consumer Rights Day, that is celebrated on 15th March every year. The Sikkim expedition, also known as the Battle of Lingtu Mountain, was a British military operation in 1888 to drive Tibetan soldiers out of Sikkim, which is located in modern-day northeast India. The competition between the British and Tibetans for control of Sikkim was the source of the conflict. Sikkim had a long history of relation with Tibet, and its rulers were descended from a Tibetan saint who unified Bhutan. The British extended their influence to the Himalayas in Sikkim when they signed the Treaty of Tumlong with the British in 1861. In 1882, the Indian government prepared to send a diplomatic mission to the Tibetan capital Lhasa to define the spheres of influence for the Tibetan and Indian governments. However, the mission was indefinitely postponed after the Tibetan government dispatched an expedition of 300 soldiers in resistance into Sikkim. The Tibetans showed every sign of being there to stay. They built a fortified gate on the road going to Tibet. On 15 March 1888, the British attacked the Tibetan fortification. The Tibetans retreated after a short struggle, as the British were outgunned them because they had modern rifles and artillery. Later, several battles took place between the British and Tibetan forces. The British then recovered Gangtok, where the pro-Tibetan party had ousted the pro-Indian opposition. The war had ended on 26 September. The war had ended, but it took several years for a treaty to be signed. In 17 March 1890, the Anglo-Chinese Convention of Calcutta established the Tibetan renunciation of control over Sikkim and delimited the border between Tibet and Sikkim. That is why Tibet was separated forever from Sikkim. Tibet later on had many challenging issues and a big fight against the new modern Chinese government. 15th March will also be celebrated as World Consumer Rights Day. This year's theme, Empowering Consumers Through Clean Energy Transition, is the subject for World Consumer Rights Day in 2023. International Consumer Rights Day is observed on March 15th each year. It strives to increase understanding of consumer rights, protection, and empowerment on a global scale. The membership association representing consumer organizations worldwide is called Consumers International. It was established on April 1, 1960, and it has more than 250 member organizations in 120 nations. It has many regional offices in South America, Asia Pacific, the Middle East, and Africa, and its home office is in London, England. On 15 March 1962, the former US President John F. Kennedy, who was the 35th President of the United States, quoted, "Consumers by definition include us all. They are the largest economic group, affecting and affected by almost every public and private economic decision. Yet they are the only important group whose views are often not heard." Anwar Faisal, a consumer rights activist and employee of Consumers International at that time, later advocated holding a World Consumer Rights Day. To commemorate the event, on March 15, 1983, consumer organizations began recognizing the date as a time to promote consumers' fundamental rights. On 15th March 1950, the Planning Commission was founded in India. The Planning Commission was a department of the Indian government responsible for, among other things, creating the country's 5-year plans. In 1951, the first 5-year plan was introduced. It had a major emphasis on the expansion of agriculture industry. After much turmoil and wars, the 5-year plans were unsuccessful and they were reintroduced later. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed his intention to abolish the Planning Commission in his first Independence Day speech in 2014. Since then, Niti Aayog, a new organization, has taken its place. Well, that's it for today's history. I hope you'll join us next time when we learn what happened in the past on a particular day.